One night, the most powerful man in Iran was alive. The next morning, he wasn't. No declaration, no warning, just an absence where a leader used to be, and a world holding its breath to understand what had just changed. How did it happen, and what does it mean for the rest of us? Iran is a country of 88 million people. For decades, it has been governed under a system called the Islamic Republic, a government where religious law and political power are tightly combined. At the very top of that system sat the supreme leader, the single most powerful figure in the country, with authority over the military, the judiciary, and the direction of the state itself. Source: Council on Foreign Relations, 2024. This story matters now because the death of a sitting supreme leader, the second in Iran's history, is not just a political event. It is a seismic moment. It rewrites the rules of a region already stretched thin by years of conflict, proxy wars, and nuclear negotiations. Understanding how it happened is the first step to understanding what comes next. The tensions that led to this moment did not begin overnight. For years, Iran and Israel had been locked in what analysts called a shadow war, a conflict fought not always with armies, but with assassinations, cyberattacks, and covert strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Source: BBC News, 2024. The killing of Iranian nuclear scientists, the Stuxnet cyberattack, and the strikes attributed to Israel on Iranian soil had been building a pattern, one that both sides understood, even if neither always publicly confirmed it. Lower third, Shadow War, ongoing covert conflict between Iran and Israel, 2010, present. Then in the spring of 2024, something shifted. Iran launched what it described as a retaliatory strike against Israel, reportedly firing over 300 drones and missiles directly at Israeli territory for the first time in history. Source: Reuters, April 14, 2024. Most were intercepted, but the act itself was historic. It broke an unspoken rule. Iran had, for the first time, struck Israel directly from its own soil. Israel responded. Within days, Israeli strikes reportedly hit targets inside Iran, including, according to multiple outlets, air defense systems near Isfahan. Source: The New York Times, April 19, 2024. Iran initially downplayed the damage, but something had changed in the calculus. Question: When does a shadow war stop being a shadow? Months passed, diplomacy stalled. The Gaza conflict, ongoing since October 2023, continued to generate pressure across the region. Iran-backed groups Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen were all engaged in parallel confrontations with Israeli and American forces. Source: Al Jazeera, 2024. The region was a network of lit fuses. Then came the strike that changed everything. According to multiple intelligence and media reports, a targeted strike, reported to have been carried out by Israel, with alleged coordination or awareness from the United States, struck a location where Iran's supreme leader was present. Source: Associated Press, reported date pending confirmation. The method, the precise timing, and the level of direct U.S. involvement remain subjects of ongoing reporting and official dispute. What is confirmed? The supreme leader was killed. Source: Iranian state media, subsequently confirmed by multiple international outlets. Lower third, confirmed by Iranian state media and corroborated by independent international reporting. Iranian state television announced the news in a brief, formal broadcast. Flags were lowered, state institutions went quiet. The streets of Tehran and cities across Iran filled with people processing a reality that had, until hours before, seemed almost impossible. The first major claim that Israel conducted the strike was reported by the New York Times, citing multiple unnamed intelligence officials. Source: The New York Times, 2024-2025. Israel, consistent with its practice on sensitive operations, neither confirmed nor denied involvement in official statements. The second claim, that the United States had prior knowledge or indirect coordination, was alleged by several outlets, including Reuters and The Washington Post. Source: Reuters, 2024-2025. The Washington Post, 2024-2025. U.S. officials, according to those same reports, denied direct participation in the operation, though some acknowledged awareness of Israeli intentions. These claims remain alleged and have not been independently verified through court proceedings or declassified documents at the time of this script. INFOCRD, what we know versus unconfirmed. What is confirmed? Iran's supreme leader died as a result of a strike on or near his location. What is confirmed? Iran held an emergency session of its governing council within 24 hours. Source: Iranian state media, corroborated by Al Jazeera. What remains unconfirmed or disputed? The precise intelligence chain that led to the strike, the exact weapons system used, and the degree of American foreknowledge. Document, UN Security Council emergency session, convened in response, statement on record, date of session pending publication. The CCTV footage that circulated on social media claiming to show an explosion near Dubai airport was identified as fabricated, according to open-source investigators at Bellingcat. Source: Bellingcat verification note, as referenced in video corrections. This is an important reminder. In fast-moving news events, unverified footage spreads quickly. Verification takes longer than a share button. There are genuinely different interpretations of what happened and why, and it is worth taking them seriously. Some analysts argue that the strike was a preemptive act by Israel, that Israeli intelligence assessed an imminent threat large enough to justify the risk of directly targeting a head of state. Others argue that this represents an escalation with no clear legal or strategic precedent in modern international relations, and that the long-term consequences will far outweigh any short-term security gain. Both positions are held by serious people with legitimate grounds. Sidebar: targeted killing, the deliberate use of lethal force against a specific individual, usually by a state, controversial under international law. A significant gap in the public record is the role of international law. The killing of a sitting head of state by a foreign power, absent a formal declaration of war, sits in deeply contested legal territory. Source: International law scholars cited in Foreign Policy, 2024-2025. No international court has ruled on this specific event. The debate is ongoing. There is also a gap around succession. Iran's constitution provides a mechanism for replacing the supreme leader. A council known as the Assembly of Experts is responsible for that selection, but the internal politics of who might fill that role, and how quickly, remain opaque to outside observers. Sus. Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Iran, analysis by Brookings Institution. Human impact. Beyond the politics and the strategy, there are people. Millions of Iranians woke up to a morning that felt fundamentally different. Whatever one thinks of the government's policies, the death of a figure who has been central to national identity, for some a revered religious authority, for others a symbol of oppression, produces a kind of collective disorientation that is hard to describe from the outside. Human rights organizations noted in the days following that civil society groups inside Iran, including those who had long opposed the government, called for calm and expressed concern about potential crackdowns or instability. Sus. Amnesty International Statement, 2024-2025. The fear was not just of conflict from outside, but of what might happen within. Families of political prisoners held in Iranian jails reported particular anxiety. In moments of national upheaval, the most vulnerable people inside any system tend to bear the heaviest cost. Their stories deserve to be part of this telling, even if the details remain difficult to confirm from abroad. Think of the Middle East as a table with many legs. Each leg represents a different power: Iran, Israel, the Gulf states, the United States, Russia, Turkey. For decades, the table wobbled but held because each leg adjusted to the others. What just happened is the equivalent of someone removing one of the major legs entirely, suddenly, and without consensus. Experts in geopolitics, including scholars at the Carnegie Endowment and the International Crisis Group, have argued for years that the Iranian system's greatest vulnerability was not military, it was succession. Sus. Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, 2023. A system built around a single, irreplaceable figure of religious authority is difficult to transition. Who leads next will shape the next decade. There is also a question of precedent. If the killing of a head of state by a non-declaring foreign power becomes normalized, even tacitly accepted by the international community, it resets what is considered permissible in geopolitics. That is not a small thing. It affects how every leader in every country calculates their own safety and how they respond. Here is what we know. Iran's supreme leader was killed in a targeted strike, reportedly carried out by Israel. Iran's government has confirmed the death. The international community is responding. Here is what we don't know: the full chain of command behind the operation, the precise degree of US involvement, what Iran's next leadership will look like, and how it will choose to respond. One thing is certain: the next chapter has already begun. The most likely near-term scenario, confidence high, is a period of internal consolidation inside Iran, during which the Assembly of Experts moves to name a new supreme leader. This process could take weeks or months. During that window, Iran's external posture may become harder to read, as different factions compete for influence. A second scenario, confidence medium, is a significant retaliatory action by Iran or Iran-aligned groups. Hezbollah, the Houthis, and other proxy forces have both the capacity and the stated motivation to respond. Whether they act and how will depend heavily on internal Iranian decision-making and external deterrence signals from the United States and its allies. A third scenario, confidence, low but non-zero, is a broader regional escalation involving direct military confrontation between Iran and Israel, potentially drawing in other powers. Most analysts consider this unlikely in the immediate term, given the enormous costs all sides would face. But unlikely is not the same as impossible, and the current environment has already surprised observers more than once. History doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly between one day and the next, and only later do we understand the weight of what just shifted. What matters now is that we pay attention, ask careful questions, and resist the urge to replace complexity with certainty. If you want to understand the longer history behind this moment, the 1953 coup, the 1979 revolution, and how Iran became what it is today, the next video lays all of that out, clearly and without the noise.